The Trump administration, meanwhile, blasting China for its handling of the outbreak. President Trump saying Beijing made a huge mistake, as you just heard, trying to cover up the crisis. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also ripping China for suppressing important information.
We've seen the fact that they kicked journalists out. We saw the fact that those who were trying to report on this, medical professionals inside of China, were silenced. They shut down reporting, all the kind of things that authoritarian regimes do. It's the way communist parties operate. This is classic communist disinformation effort that created enormous risk.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor Byron York. He is also the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. He joins us now. Byron, good morning to you. So we'll get to the president's reaction last night in just a moment. But first to Mike Pompeo blasting China in that brand new interview.
Well, remember, Pompeo is a former CIA director, so he knows intelligence. He knows Chinese tactics, not only in the virus, but in years past. So this is something that he has some expertise to talk about. U.S. officials apparently now believe that China hid or destroyed evidence to keep the severity of this crisis a secret from the world. This is something that U.S. officials have noticed for a while. A senator not too long ago told me that back in January, he was noticing the discrepancy between Chinese government public statements, everything's fine, nothing to see here, and the increasingly draconian efforts they were taking to contain the virus in Wuhan. That made, you know, his eyebrows go up and be suspicious of what was going on. So U.S. officials have been looking at something funky going on in China for quite a while.
Interesting. What was your takeaway then from the president's words last night? As you just heard him say, he believes that China made a huge mistake, and he has in the past vowed retaliation. What does that tell you about the U.S. next move when it comes to China?
Well, first of all, the idea is not that it was done deliberately. It was not created as a bioweapon or something like that, but that China was studying this virus in part, apparently, to show that it had a world-class virology capability, and that by accident, it got out of the laboratory. So the question is, what does the United States do now? The president has had a very delicate relationship with China over his entire presidency as he tries to get increased and better for the U.S. trade terms with China. There are obvious things to do. I mean, the United States has funded the virology lab in Wuhan. Maybe that's not a great idea. Certainly members of Congress, there are a lot of members of Congress who want to stop doing that. So I think there'll be a number of actions the administration will take. They may be kind of ascending actions, starting slow, and if China does not fix things or come clean, perhaps they become more serious.
And members of Congress stepping forward with some ideas as well. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas talking about some of the bills that he's bringing forward to combat China. Here's the senator.
This week, I've got 4 pieces of legislation I'm introducing. One of them is legislation that prohibits the U.S. government from conducting any business over any telecom or internet infrastructure that China owns or controls. Why? Because they use it to steal. That is part of their strategy.
So bottom line, Byron, for the American people sitting at home, they hear the president in that town hall last night talking about a huge mistake that led to all this on the part of China. Pompeo calling it classic communist disinformation effort. The American people want to know if China will ultimately be held accountable. Final thoughts.
Well, as Senator Cruz just said, there are a number of members of Congress who want to do that. Not clear what the president will do. I mean, there's so many different public concerns about this. Obviously, the first concern is the health of the American people and stopping the spread of the virus. The second concern is reopening the economy. I would have to say taking action against China is probably the third concern, but absolutely necessary once we find out what actually happened.
Byron York, always good to talk to you. Thanks for kicking off our Monday morning show. See you
Thank you, Sandra.